Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It looks like we are live. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are not starting the live stream on time due to me talking a lot about important things with Scott. Scott was on time, so please don't comment here about it. But we will be announcing a very exciting project, me and Scott Ritter. I am truly honored being part of this project. And I thank Scott already many times. I think I will be forever thanking to be part of this. We are not telling you exactly yet what is this, but you can find out on my locals community. And if you go to my other platforms as well, especially on locals, and also if you go to Scott Ritter Extra, and I don't know, Scott will decide if he will post it on his website that is already down below this video as well. Welcome back, Mr. Scott Ritter.
Well, thank you very much. And when this is ready to go public, I will definitely post it on my chat. I think ScottRitterExtra.com is outdated. We've updated it to ScottRitter.com. Somebody was kind enough to acquire that URL and gave it to us for free. Apparently, somebody was charging a lot of money for it. But so ScottRitter.com is the new site. So anyways, that's we're going to be going public with this soon.
Thank you. I would like to ask you all who are watching, and if the content brings you value, to make sure to hit this like before you go and to share the video afterwards, because we are addressing very important current events. A lot is going on, and Scott knows, of course. I would like to start with this topic that I think at this moment is something I am very interested in, how this will unfold. The Russians reported that they managed to discover, this is from the day before yesterday, I believe, another drone above Armaville. That's the area where are early warning systems of the Russian Federation. Those systems inform if USA or somebody else from that region will start launching the nuclear missiles or maybe even cruise missiles. Just a few days ago, Ukrainians have already damaged one of those early warning systems. I think the name of the place was Voronezh. As I might be not correct here, there are 9 or 10 of those systems in Russia. However, as I understand, those systems in that region that were affected and where the drone was spotted are not covering Ukraine. They actually don't even look in the Ukraine. They apparently completely cover Iran. And I would like to know, Scott, what is the main goal of those attacks, in your opinion? How important those stations are, and how they can be better protected by the Russian Federation?
Well, the question of how they can be better protected, that's up to the Russian Federation. They're being attacked by drones. The drones obviously are receiving intelligence on, radar gaps, etc. Real-time intelligence that's detecting where the Russian air defense systems are. So, and drones are, very maneuverable. They're not like, missiles that have a trajectory that's predictable, even though they maneuver slightly. It's hard to make a missile maneuver too much. Drones can actually they can change altitude, they can go low, they can think. So when you plot a drone, entry route, and you plot it so that you've looked at the radar envelopes and you look at terrain, you can plot a very, detailed route that use terrain masking that alters speed. Radars are attuned to moving objects, and so they filter out things. You can make a drone take on the flight characteristics of a bird, and then the radars will screen those out. Otherwise you can overwhelm radars. So we're in a new phase of warfare. Russian air defense systems were designed to shoot down airplanes, missiles, cruise missiles, etc. They weren't designed to shoot down, these low-tech, high-tech drones. And what I mean by low-tech, high-tech is they're not very expensive. So they're easy to make, but high-tech, and the thing about programming a drone is, if you program it, it doesn't send a signal or receive a signal. It flies on a path that's been programmed in, and it's impossible to detect. You can't jam it because it's not receiving a signal or transmitting a signal. It's being automatically on a path that's already predetermined. It's like in the old days. I might be giving away my age here, but you could go build these models where you've got these discs, and you would cut the discs. And the disc would go in, and as the disc spun, it would control the controls of the aircraft. So you'd power it up, and you throw the little model airplane, and the disc would make it go up and then turn and turn and turn. And if you cut your disc right, the plane would come back and land somewhere in the vicinity of you. So you didn't have to go too far to find it unless it crashed. You did the disc rock, hit a tree. But that's the equivalent of this. So this is very difficult. There's a lot of people that are frustrated. Why can't the Russians protect this, that, and the other thing? Guys, we're in a new era of warfare. So Russia's going to have to come up with some sort of system that, when you're dealing with drones, it's probably going to be a look down, shoot down kind of system that assesses moving targets, not from, the normal radar, but from above, down below. And this is expensive. The one thing I can say is the Russians will adapt. They always have. And they're very quick at adapting. So at some point in time, some very smart people in the Russian defense industry who have been tasked with resolving this issue will come up with a solution. Another solution is counter drones. And what I mean by that is around the radars, just deploy your own family of very small drones that are hunter killers on automatic. They're just up there like a swarm of bees, and they can have a master drone above them who's detecting things. And, when something comes in, the swarm of bees comes in and hits it and kills it. There's solutions to this problem. The Russians just haven't come up with a solution yet. These radars have nothing to do with the war whatsoever, except that the Ukrainians are attacking them in an effort to, in a desperate effort to get Russia to escalate this conflict. They want Russia to overreact. They want Russia to attack a NATO country, things of that nature, to bring NATO into the conflict, because this is Ukraine's only chance. So they don't care about the outcome. They're looking at the certainty of the death of their nation. So Ukraine will do whatever they can do, with total disregard to. I love it when the French and the Germans, everybody, well, we give them permission. Ukrainians are like, we don't need your permission. We're dying. We're dead. So we're going to do whatever we can. Now, the difference between the Ukrainians doing whatever they can and doing it with Western weapons is, and we saw this. You remember that intercepted phone call of the Germans when they were talking about, planning to strike the Crimea Bridge, et cetera. They let it loose that German technicians and French technicians and British technicians were in country doing the targeting, because as Vladimir Putin gave a very interesting presentation the other day, he said, look, we know how they use space reconnaissance. We know that the guidance systems that are used here are programmed based upon space reconnaissance. The satellites provide the linkage. The Ukrainians have nothing to do with this, can have nothing to do with it, because the Ukrainians aren't the ones collecting the target data, bringing it up, turning it into data that's usable. And that's all done by the French, the British, the Germans, the Americans. So, for the Ukrainians, it's not a Ukrainian decision to strike targets. If Ukraine, and here's the critical thing, if Ukraine uses a storm shadow to strike a target strategically in Russia, that means that Britain attacked Russia. Straight up, Britain attacked Russia. If they use a scalp missile to do something, the French attacked Russia. And if they use ATACMS, the Americans attacked Russia. This is just the reality of this. We're trying to create a situation where we say we give the Ukrainians permission, but to use these weapons to strike Russia, it's us doing the attacking. So we're giving ourselves permission, but we're pretending that it's Ukrainians doing that. But the Russians have seen through this. I don't know what Russia's going to do if and when Scalp, Storm Shadow, God forbid the Taurus ever shows up, or ATACMS is used in a specific manner. That's separate than attacking these air defense radars or these early warning radars. The early warning radars, again, is a deliberate provocation. It's a dangerous provocation because the Russian nuclear doctrine says that when people use conventional weapons to take out their nuclear early warning command and control or actual assets, that triggers a nuclear response. So, ladies and gentlemen, Ukraine's already attacked 2 sites, which by doctrine could trigger a Russian nuclear response. Now, if these attacks were done by Western missiles, at a time of high tension, Russia could say, this is the first phase of a preemptive attack by the West. We will preempt the preemption by attack, by launching now. And then we'd all be dead. We wouldn't be having this podcast. And I just don't know what to say anymore. I've come to the point where, frankly speaking, I'm starting not to care about humanity. And the reason why I say that is I don't know what else I have to say to warn everybody. You're about to die, that this isn't a joke anymore. This is the most dangerous thing in the world that's taking place right now. What we just talked about, the Ukrainians attacking Russian early warning defense radars, is a trigger for nuclear attack. Now, the Russians, thank God, they're governed by responsible people who don't take the bait. But if you listen to what Putin just said, he said, we know how this works and we know who's responsible. The United States just reported that the Russians launched a couple satellite killers that are now tracking U.S. reconnaissance satellites, meaning they're just following in behind them. We're going to take the satellites out. The Russians are going to take the satellites out. They're going to kill our satellites. They're going to kill the French satellites. They'll kill the British satellites. They'll kill the German satellites. Not just the satellites. They may take out the ground control stations that are operating on NATO soil. And then what? Let's say that the Russians do this. They get fed up. They say, take out the satellite, take out the ground. So now some Zircons and some Kinzhals fly, and they hit Romania, they hit France, they hit England. And then what the Russians will say is, I just want everybody to understand that this was a retaliatory action for the attacks you did against us. We know what you did. And if you invoke Article 5, we will assume that you want to go to war with us. So the second you invoke Article 5, we're at war and we're going to nuke you. We're not playing any more games. It will be an automatic nuclear response. And NATO's running around going, well, you're bluffing, you're bluffing, you're bluffing, you're bluffing, you're bluffing. Article 5, everybody's dead. Have you guys gotten scared yet? I want you all to go home and puke tonight. I want you to get cold, clammy sweat. I want you to look at your family and realize this may be the last day you ever look at your family. We're that close. All it takes is one stupid mistake, and we have all of Europe full of leaders ready to make that stupid mistake. Do you think the Russians were joking when they did the nuclear exercise? Do you think that was a joke? Oh, we're just going to go do a nuclear exercise so that the West thinks we're bluffing again. They're not bluffing. This is as real as it gets. So we're basically putting our fate in the hands of Vladimir Putin. Couldn't think of anybody better to put our fate in, but he's an adversary if you're in the West. He's not our friend. As much as I respect him, as much as I respect the Russian position, I'm an American. They're the adversaries. I don't like having the fate of my country, the fate of my people in the hands of the adversaries who don't care about America first. They care about Russia first, and they're going to do what's good for Russia. And what's good for Russia isn't always what's good for America. So, and as a European, it's the same thing. You can respect Vladimir Putin, You can respect Russia. You can want to be friends with Russia. But right now, they're the adversaries, and they view you as the adversaries, rightfully so. Europe and America has been creating war and all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying that we're right, they're wrong. I'm saying they're right, we're wrong. But we're still, I'm an American. Other people are Europeans. Our leaders are supposed to be looking out for us. And right now, what they're trying to do is commit suicide because they don't believe that the Russians are going to do what their doctrine says they must do when they're confronted with this situation. I don't like having Vladimir Putin making my life and death decision. He can make it for Russia, but he doesn't. I don't want to make it for America. He is right now. Thankfully, he's making the right decision not to escalate. But at some point in time, we are going to push him too far because every time he chooses not to escalate, we say, see, another red line and Russia did nothing. My God, for all the idiots to say, you do know that if Russia did something, you'd be dead. You'd be dead because the escalation cycle is instantaneous. We're at the point right now where we've already pushed all the red lines, all the buttons. There's just one more left to go. And when that's done, it's over. There's not going to be 20 days of negotiation. This isn't going to be the Cuban Missile Crisis where you have ships moving to a line outside of Cuba and we're tracking the ships waiting for John F. Kennedy to, convince the Soviets to turn the ships around. We don't have that kind of time. This is, we made one mistake too many, boom, dead. And it's just frustrating me. I mean, I've been advocating for nuclear disarmament, for arms control, for responsible thinking for a long time. Who knows? I don't want to blame anyone, but I have to tell you, I did a podcast with Danny Haifong, with Alex White, Reportify, and he has a Chinese analyst, I guess Hong Kong, Carl Zha. And Carl Zha's attitude was, screw it, let's go to war. You know what, Carl? Let's go to war. I'm 62 years old. I've lived my life. And, there's nothing I can do. I can't personally save the world. So let's do it, Carl. But I want to make sure that I'm looking in your eyes as you realize that it's all over and that you made the biggest mistake in your stupid little life. And all the people out there that think that this is a bluff, I don't care about you anymore. I'm done caring about you. I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to hope that we don't go to nuclear war. I'm headed off to Russia. I'm going to try and work on that, making U.S.-Russian relationships work at the lower levels. But there's a good chance while I'm there, the world could end. And I am done caring about the stupid people in this world. For all the idiots out there saying, well, it's a bluff, or hey, let them nuke. You know what, Carl Zha? Go to hell. I told myself I wasn't going to get mad at you, but I'm furious at you. I am furious at you and everybody else who treats nuclear war as a game, as a joke. It's not. I've been around a hell of a lot longer than most of the people watching this show. I've been in a situation where I was ready to fight a nuclear war. I was in a nuclear capable artillery unit. I've practiced firing nuclear weapons. We had operation plans that if we were called upon to implement them, we would have used nuclear weapons. I helped get rid of nuclear weapons to bring down the weapons that were threatening Europe and the United States and the world with imminent nuclear destruction. It's not a game. And too much work and too much effort went into trying to get rid of these weapons to lower this now for it to come back because of stupid people like Carl Zha. I don't mean to call him out by name, but I'm going to, because he is symptomatic of the problem. Stupidity in the extreme based upon the concept that, it's all a bluff. He says America's bluffing. Hey, Carl, we aren't bluffing. When the time comes to push the button, we will push the button and you will die. Okay, you can say everything you want about America. You can call it all the names you want, talk about how weak we are, etc. When it comes to nuclear weapons, we're not a joke. We got a whole bunch of them, and they're aimed at you. They're aimed at Russia. They're aimed everywhere. And when it's time to bring the world down, because again, people need to understand, when America goes to nuclear war, you do know that we actually think we can win this thing. And you know how we determine we win? By preserving enough of American civilization so that we are the dominant surviving civilization. And so we, just big hint out there for all the people who go, hey, India, this is about you. Well, we have no beef with America. You do, because at the end of nuclear war, you can't be allowed to be a dominant civilization. America has to dominate the world. We'll nuke you. We're going to nuke you. We're going to nuke everybody so that we're the dominant civilization. That's how America wins a nuclear war, because we know we're going to take hits. And we're going to take a lot of hits, but we have to preserve just enough so that when it's all over, forget nuclear winter, we pretend it doesn't exist. Pretend long-term radiation. People like Carl's, it doesn't matter. Look at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. People are living there. Go to hell. I don't want to hear your stupidity. The world will end. And I'm not willing to gamble on your stupidity, your non-scientific approach to life that says, no, I don't believe it. It's not going to end. It's all a bluff. Even if it goes off, who cares? That's just a city here, a city there. No, it's all over. But the idiots in America say, when we win the nuclear war, we're going to have, 40% of America left. You guys are going to have less than 40% of what you have, so that we're the dominant civilization. That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. That's how nuclear war works. All right? And we have people right now who think we can win this. Really? We have people in Washington, D.C. who are planning this stuff. We have in Omaha, Nebraska, Strategic Command, who's planning the nuclear war. We have a whole bunch of nuclear targeters who spend all their day going, what else can we take out? That's all they care about. It's about destroying population centers, industrial centers, sustainability factors. We bomb agricultural places so that you can't eat. That's nuclear war. So this isn't a game, what's going on right now. It's not a freaking game. This is as real as it gets. And I'm just tired of it, because I'm just tired of stupidity. I'm tired of the Carl Zaws of the world. I'm tired of stupid people thinking they're smarter than everybody else because they read a couple of freaking books. It doesn't work that way, guys. Live it. That's the only way you know it. I lived it. I know it. I know what's I know what's going on right now. There were some people, I in my own Telegram chat, they're like, Scott seems a little bit different right now. Like he knows something we don't know. I just told you what I know. We're going to destroy the world when we go to war. There's no such thing as a limited frickin' nuclear war. We're not just going to blow up Russia. We're not just going to blow up China. America must emerge from a post-nuclear conflict as the supreme civilization surviving. That means everybody dies. Everybody. And yet Carl Zoll's like, well, bring it on. Go to hell. Go to hell for everybody. I'm sorry, Annie. I'm trying not to be so negative here, but I've had it with this, because I'm sitting here. There's nothing you could do. I could scream till I'm blue in the face, and I have. And I'm going over to Russia right now, and they don't want to talk about it. I can't blame them. I mean, they're all like, Scott, we think you're a good guy and all this kind of stuff. But from their perspective, the only thing that's saving them right now is their own nuclear arsenal. They're like, if we didn't have this nuclear arsenal, America and Europe would be trying to come at us with all their cruise missiles and everything. So the only thing that keeps us here is our nuclear arsenal. And we've made our nuclear arsenal so it can't be defeated by ballistic missile defense. We've made it so it's survivable. It can take a first strike back. The Russians have done everything right from nuclear war planning in terms of deterrence, except one thing. The West thinks they're bluffing. The West thinks they're bluffing. And how do you defeat that stupidity, that mindset? It's the Carl Zaw mindset where he says, well, America's a nuclear paper tiger, quotes me Mao. I'm trying to watch my language on it because I'm getting ready to go Marine Corps here, but I'm gonna hold back out of respect to you and your audience. But you know what? I've said enough. I've made my peace.
I appreciate this, because it comes to the point when we all have just enough of this. And I tell you, here I wanted to ask you this same question, actually, to sidetrack a little bit, maybe to present a little bit different side of this. Don't you think that those two stations, that they were, well, the one in Voronezh and the other one that the drone was hovering over, Armavir, I think is the name, Isn't it about Iran, Scott? Isn't it about blinding certain areas? Isn't it about the conflict in the Middle East more than about going deeper into Russia? I had questions that you already answered about what you think about European leaders saying that they should target those places in Russia, but specifically those two events that took place recently. Don't you see this connection more with Iran? No?
None,
Okay.
none whatsoever. None whatsoever. First of all, I mean, what's the connection? So you bomb those two sites. What's that have to do with Iran? The sites are the reason why these sites exist is that Russia was trying to convince the West, the United States, not to put ballistic missile defense systems in Poland and in Romania that we claimed were targeted, or designed to take out Iranian systems. We lied. They were designed to take out Russian systems, and they were designed to create a potential base for, preemptive missile strikes. Mark 41 Aegis ashore. We said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's only the SM-3, interceptor missile." The Russians are going, "No, but it's in a Mark 41 launch cluster that includes the SM-6, which can be configured for a surface-to-surface mode." "Oh, don't worry. We just did SM-6. Now it's called the Typhoon surface-to-surface missile." There it is. And the Tomahawk sea launch cruise missile now is a ground launch cruise missile. We said, we'll never do that. Within, I think, 14 days after we got out of the INF Treaty, we tested a Tomahawk out of that, which means, because those tests don't happen overnight, that means we were planning for that test for over a year prior to us getting out of the INF Treaty. We lied to the Russians every step of the way. That's all we do is lie. We don't know how to tell the truth. And I'm just calling every American official in the arms control community out right now. You guys are liars, because you know what your instructions are. Use arms control to further American nuclear supremacy, to lie, cheat, and steal about everything. The New START Treaty that was signed in 2010 by the great and wonderful Barack Hussein Obama. God's gift to American presidents, Nobel Peace Prize before he became president. I mean, my God, that's how wonderful this man was. New START Treaty was signed. We lied through our teeth about everything. The Russians came in and said, "Hey, we're not too comfortable about doing this New START Treaty unless we also talk about ballistic missile defense." And what Obama told Medvedev, who was president at the time, is, "Don't worry about it. Let's just get through this thing. I got trouble with the Senate, so we have to keep missile defense out of this. But I promise you, once we get the New START in, we'll do missile defense." Anatoly Antonov was the lead negotiator for the Russians for this, and he's like the whole time going, "Wait a minute, you guys are you're serious? If we do this, you'll talk about missile defense next." Guaranteed, promise. Meanwhile, the Russians kept saying, things like, "Well, what does this mean?" And the Americans go, "Well, it means what does it mean to make a missile silo non-functional? What exactly? It means non-functional. It means it doesn't work." Russians are like, "But how does that happen?" Let's not get thrown down. It just means it's not going to work. It's not. Russia, okay. And they were stupid enough to believe us. I'm sorry, Anatoly. I don't mean to call you stupid, but I think today you would call yourself stupid. I've had conversations with him where he's very critical of the American approach. Because what happened once the treaty was in? First of all, Anatoly immediately picks up the phone, calls Rose, Guttmuller, his counterpart, says, "I'm ready to do that anti-ballistic missile thing. Team's ready. Let's go and do it." Now we're just not going to do that. Lied. No ballistic missile defense. The Russians are going. And then what we do is we start pulling all these missiles out, because one of the things about New START is we count deliverable systems, but we can put things in reserve. We can put warheads in reserve. The warheads are still there. And we have missiles in reserve, as long as it's not attached to a system. We went to the Trident submarines and we decommissioned some of the launch tubes. But instead of pouring concrete in them or somehow making them so they never function again, we basically put a lock on it and said, "There, it's decommissioned." The Russians are going, "That's not decommissioned. You take the lock off and it can work." "Yeah, but we got a lock on it." We went to the airplanes, we cut a couple wires. Have you ever seen an electrician come in, he cuts your wires and he puts the electric tape on it, tapes it off, says, "There, that no longer functions." But if I take the electric tape off, splice the wires together, it functions, right? Yeah. But we disconnected it. So on B-52 bombers, they cut a couple boxes, tied it off, said, they're no longer, we can't count those systems. Same thing with the Trident. And the Russians are going, but you could undo this immediately. And here's the ultimate insult to the Russians. Well, we're telling them, don't do it. We have guys going to Congress saying, don't worry about it. If there's ever a crisis, this is honest to God truth. If there's ever a crisis, we can undo all this. So if the Russians ever want to play games with the New START treaty, we can go ahead and we can immediately increase the number of deliverable nuclear warheads by splicing those wires together and unlocking that lock. And we can undo all this and get our numbers way up real quick. So why? So that we have de facto nuclear supremacy. People keep asking, why do the Russians keep building all these missiles? What's the purpose of the Sarmat? Why the Avant-Garde? What's with the Yars? What's with the Bulava? What are those Russians trying to cause trouble? No, the Russians are saying America lied to us. And they've created a situation where they have a potential first strike capability. So Russia has to, and again, why are these radars important? Potential first strike capability. Those radars were put in, again, directed against Iran, because the Russians are saying, look, if Iran ever wanted to attack Europe, we have radars, can pick it up. We can just plug it in. We don't need this fake stuff that you got. The fake stuff you have now puts you in a position where you're that much closer, so you can fire the SM-6, you can fire the Tomahawk, and come in and hit command and control targets that much quicker. People can say, why is Russia worried about Ukraine being in there? You guys looked at a map? Have you looked at a freaking map? Do you realize what happens if Ukraine joined NATO and NATO put these missile systems in Ukraine? How close they are to Moscow? Can't happen, guys. Why? They have nothing to fear. NATO's a defensive alliance. No, it's not. It's an offensive alliance, and it's geared, tied to an American strategy of the strategic defeat of Russia, including America has a nuclear posture of preemptive strike. We can attack anything. The Trump administration, for all those people that are going, I really want Donald Trump back, and I hate Joe Biden. I hate Joe Biden too. But Donald Trump, his administration actually had a guy who was in charge of nuclear issues who said the goal of the Trump administration, this is a direct quote, is to have every morning to have Chinese and Russian leaders wake up not knowing whether or not today's the day America nukes them.
What's the name of this person?
I'll find it to you. I mean, it's a quote. I wrote an article about it, and I have his name. I put his name in there. It's a direct quote. America, I think what I just said, the goal of the Trump administration is to have Chinese and Russian leadership wake up every morning not knowing whether or not this is the day America nukes them. Yeah, we want to make this guy president again. Apparently, he just on a fundraiser said that, if he was president and Russia invaded Ukraine, he'd bomb Russia. Really, Donald? And if China invades Taiwan, he'll bomb China. Really? Even my dogs object to this lunacy. But no, I don't know what's going on. I have people doing things outside. But the point is, we've lied to the Russians from the very start. We're not honorable people. We're the most dishonorable people in the world. And Russia's built a nuclear arsenal that's designed to overcome the lies, deception, deceit. But I go to Russia and I keep, saying, hey, let's go back to those good old INF days. And the Russians are like, you guys told the truth in that treaty. That was a good treaty. It really was. It was negotiating good faith. But we bent over backwards to make you know that we were serious about, arms control. One of the things that the Russians did there is they gave up more systems than we did. And then Gorbachev, because they had a missile called the SS-23, Gorbachev just threw that in there too. And there was no American equivalent. They just got rid of the SS-23s, and we're going, okay, thanks. From the Russian perspective, they got rid of a very important part of their nuclear capability. The capability allowed them to effectively fight nuclear war in Europe. They got rid of it. It's gone. And that's okay if America then intends to follow through, but we never negotiated in good faith. We maintained this nuclear weapons stockpile in NATO. We refuse to allow French and British forces to be incorporated into nuclear discussions. We maintain nuclear-capable aircraft carriers. The Russians are always like, that's a nuclear threat. You keep bringing your aircraft carriers in. We used to fly airplanes, take them off, and just fly them towards Russia. And then the Navy would just, like it's going, like we're getting ready to attack. And then we'd veer away at the last second. The Russians were like, why are you doing that? We do that with B-52s. Again, everybody who goes to bed at night saying, oh, it's not a big deal. We fly B-52s down the Baltic Sea along, and we take them on a strike flight going in as if we're going to strike St. Petersburg and then Moscow or the Kola Peninsula with nuclear weapons. We do the same thing in the Black Sea. We come in with the B-52s on a strike thing. We just keep flying them in and then breaking them off, flying them in and breaking them off. I mean, thank God the Russians have patient guys. I have to tell you, if I was the guy defending, I'd shoot those suckers down. You come in and say, shoot them down. But they haven't done. I don't care. I don't want them to do anything. They're flying a very aggressive fight pattern. Why? What's the purpose of this? Shoot them down. Then we'd be at war. But why the Russians show the patience that they show to us, to what we do? Well, Scott, they fly bomber missions up to. They put bombers in the air. And they go in and they tickle that. But they have yet to have bombers make an aggressive run at Washington, D.C. They could put some of their strategic bombers in Cuba and have them take off and fly up the Atlantic coast offset. And then the last second, come in and start going straight to Washington, D.C. How do you think America would like that? Now you got potentially nuclear-armed Russian bombers coming in, and there's not a damn thing you can do. If they decide to launch, it's over. And then the last second, they break off. Do you think we'd sit there and go, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. No, we'd freak out. We'd freak out. The double standard is outlandish. But the early warning radars there were built to detect Iranian missile launches. But more importantly, understand that we, every once in a while, send destroyers into the Black Sea. What's just a destroyer, Scott? I mean, what could it do? Well, it carries Tomahawk missiles, and those could be nuclear armed. And so a destroyer's in the Black Sea, and the same thing, we send destroyers up over the North Sea Passage. So we go around freedom of navigation around the north. But what happens when we get up there in the north? We suddenly have destroyers armed with dozens of cruise missiles, some of them nuclear, now that have a free flight path to Russian early warning radar and Russian missile silos or Russian, the mobile missile bases. And so if we have our destroyers up there, our destroyers in the Black Sea, some destroyers in the Mediterranean, and they decide to fire, and you've taken out their early warning radars here, maybe they don't detect that first launch. Maybe we get a first free strike, a free pass. We take out the two radars. Now we fire, 60 cruise missiles, nuclear-armed cruise missiles, and the Russians are going, wait, we don't know what's going on. And by the time those 60 are through, maybe they've taken some things out, and now we fire another salvo from the north. Meanwhile, off the coast of Kamchatka, some Ohio submarines pop up, and they fire tridents at a flat trajectory below detection, and all of a sudden, pop, 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 things are happening. And this is what the Russians are worried about, that we could launch a preemptive nuclear strike designed to take out their ability to retaliate, which means we take out Russia, and then Russia's got nothing left to strike. So Russia has built a resiliency into their system so that even after we do this, there will be enough left over to guarantee that the United States will be destroyed. But in the insanity of the American war planners, remember, they don't care that I'm dead. They don't care that Albany's gone. All they care about is that 40% of American civilization has somehow survived so that we can rebuild in the post-apocalyptic world. Except for the born-again evangelists who are like, we need Armageddon. It's the rapture. Jesus is coming back, and it's all good thing. We don't care about this. This is why when we elect these evangelical Christians into the United States Senate, so we have Tom Cotton, and we have Ted Cruz, and we have all these other morons in there who should be saying, hey, this is all insanity, guys, because we care about America. We care about a better future for America. They're all going, all right, baby, the rapture. Jesus is coming, the end of the world. This is wonderful. It's not wonderful. It's the end of the world.
Scott, what if, just my thoughts here, how about none of this will take place because they're going to sacrifice what has been discussed many, many years already? They will create the buffer zone. So the Baltic countries, also Poland, will be pushed into this, and certain areas, yes, will be destroyed, and certain number of population will die. I don't have this question here, it just comes from me. What if, in the process of doing this, the West, United States, and Russia will come to the agreement, okay, this is it. We have this area in between us, between Russia and Europe, the rest of Europe. This is the buffer zone. We are good. Do you see a scenario like that?
No, because the United States policy is the strategic defeat of Russia, not accommodation with Russia. We're not going to divide the world up between the United States and Russia. There's nobody in Washington, D.C. talking about that right now. Nobody. There's literally nobody talking about that. The policymakers are married to a policy of the strategic defeat of Russia. Russia has been talking about some sort of accommodation. Remember, the new European security framework that Russia wanted to talk about that would have pushed NATO's militarized boundary, not political boundaries, but militarized boundaries back to pre-1997 lines that would have achieved some sort of buffer zone that you're talking about. But no, the United States isn't in that game right now. We're not. There's no one in Washington, D.C. talking about this.
So what is the point, in my opinion, of sending those troops or pushing those troops into Ukraine? Of course, besides the aspect for the military complex to make more money, but what is the point if they can just do their thing with the nuclear weapons?
Well, we're hoping that the Russians, I mean, first of all, just because we have idiots who plan nuclear war doesn't mean that, presidents and everybody, because there's no guarantee who's going to survive. I can tell you the president of the United States will not survive. That's the guarantee. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing that the president of the United States won't survive a nuclear war, because that means that he has a vested interest in not going to nuclear war. And there's a whole bunch of guys up there in the senior leadership who won't survive a nuclear war. And so they, again, have a personal interest now in doing that. But here's the danger of Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton. They think they're going to heaven. They think that it's the skies are going to open up and the angels are going to come down and, the rapture. So they're not doing the right things. But the nuclear, it takes a special mindset to become a nuclear war planner. I mean, understand that we had people, the original people that did this were people who lived through Pearl Harbor. And so they said we can never allow another Pearl Harbor, a nuclear Pearl Harbor, to occur. So the original nuclear war planners were all people that were talking about, never again on Pearl Harbor. We don't want a new Pearl Harbor, et cetera, like that. But eventually they aged themselves out, and we got other people in who said, we don't want nuclear war. And that's where disarmament came in. That's where detente came in, and we all worked it out. After 9/11, we have new people now that we have a new Pearl Harbor, 9/11. And there's people saying we can never allow another 9/11 event, whether it's from state actors or non-state actors. And it's this 9/11 mindset that has now taken over. A lot of these people that are doing nuclear war planning today are people who cut their teeth in 2003 in the Iraq Provisional Authority, Paul Bremer's little, occupation force in Iraq. It was populated primarily with young Republicans with no experience. They literally graduated from college, and they went off to Iraq because they punched the right tickets. Their daddy or mommy donated money to the Republican Party. They said, we're building this coalition provisional authority with all this thing. We're going to build a new economy, a new government, democracy. And they all flooded into Iraq with no experience, and they were put in charge of doing certain things. And now they build their resume. There's a whole bunch of people out there who are, security experts, who came out of college with an accounting degree, went to Iraq, sat in on a couple of meetings before the whole thing collapsed, left and said, I'm a security specialist because I ran, security for, warehouse reconstruction, et cetera, like that. And then they come into the government, and now they get plugged in, and now they're in. Now these are the decision makers, and their entire mindset is no more 9/11s. And now they've been given the nuclear arsenal. Remember, these are the George W. Bush people, and they're the ones who changed our nuclear doctrine to come up with nuclear preemption because of 9/11. We're not going to wait for somebody to come attack us again. We're going to preempt them, and we will use all the weapons at our disposal, including nuclear weapons, to preempt in a nuclear and non-nuclear environment. These are the planners today, the people out there. This is our national security establishment populated by these morons. We have political leadership on top of them. Democrats, again, I'm a Republican. I'm not a big fan of the Democrats. But I have to tell you, as bad as Joe Biden is, and he is horrible, he's a breath of fresh air. Because if Donald Trump comes in, I mean, look, Donald Trump he said Nikki Haley, he said she's coming back into my administration. Nikki Haley, who just went to Israel and signed a freaking artillery piece, blow them up, kill them all. She's going to be in Donald Trump's administration. After they ran their little primary where she said he's the worst person in the world, suddenly, and she was the dumbest person in the world. Now they're going to be together. Donald Trump is surrounding himself with these idiots. The George W. Bush idiots who have all grown up into adult idiots are now what passes for Republican national security experts, and a Trump administration is going to populate itself with these people. And if Donald Trump said what he's accused of saying at this, at this fundraiser, do we really want a president who thinks that it's okay to bomb Russia, to bomb China? I'd rather have what we have, who at least shows some hesitancy from attacking than this. But we're in a bad situation no matter what, because what we have right now still has bought into a policy of strategic defeat of Russia, allowing what's happened to go on in Ukraine, allowing we don't have any good options. I mean, the world is screwed. I mean, America used to, people, at least I used to believe that America was the nation that could save the world, bring about stability, responsible leadership. It's crazy. I mean, America's just gone off whack right now. And I don't want anything bad to happen to America because I'm American. My family's here. My house is here. My community here. My neighbors here. My friends are here. I want good things to happen. I want our economy to succeed. I want it to thrive and flourish. But how can it with what's going on? Anyways, off track.
I thought I will not ask you any more questions, but since you mentioned Joe Biden, I decided to ask you this question from the viewers, Scott, because it's a different one, and perhaps maybe it's good to bring it up. When Biden took over the White House, he issued a number of regulations that killed the American oil industry in the name of ecology. In order to lower fuel prices for Americans, which he himself contributed to increase, he put fuel from those reserves on the market. These reserves have reportedly not been replenished due to the current very high cost of oil. If an armed conflict, we are not talking nuclear, obviously, were to occur, the United States would have enough fuel for several weeks. If this is true, I think it would open the eyes of many unbelievers in Poland, especially those who think that NATO will defend them and they will watch Netflix at the same time. Would you like to address this question, Scott?
I mean, basically talking energy security. I mean, look, America will take care of America, but we're not going to take care of anybody else. I think that's the implication of the question, is that Europe and Poland and everybody else is saying that if there's a global crisis, there's energy security, that your good friend America is going to be there to back you up and have your back. No, your best bet was Russian gas. Your best bet was Russian oil. That was your best bet, but you guys turned your back on that. And now you want America to come in and fill that. We don't care about you. We care about making money. Ask German companies, ask French companies how much they pay for the gas that they need to keep their companies running. It's 3 to 5 times the amount that they paid with the Russians. That's why they're all going bankrupt and going out of business. At the end of the day, the American energy companies, we produce enough energy to we're self-sufficient. We don't have to have for it, but that's not completely true, because we have refineries in the Gulf that were back in the day of Venezuelan crude. Venezuela has a very specific kind of crude. I'm not I learned a little bit about this when I was doing weapons inspections in Iraq. I actually planned a very big inspection that went into all of Iraq's oil refining capability, because it's a chemical process, and to see if any of their refining capability had been converted to produce missile fuel. The Scud missile uses an oxidizer and a fuel, I think the fuel is AK-27, but it's a specific kerosene type product that's produced using a specific brand of Russian crude. I think came out of Azerbaijan actually, and then et cetera. So it's missile fuel isn't produced by anything. What comes out of the ground is different around the world. It's a different composition. There's different amounts of water, sulfur, et cetera. And to break that down into what you want it to use, there's different processes of, not fracking, but anyways, you're breaking up the molecules, the refining process. So we wanted to see if the Iraqis were converting their refineries to produce Scud fuel, or they could also produce, things that could be used in the chemical weapons area. And so we did a full survey of it, and I learned a lot about refining and such. And we brought in mobile labs from Russia that did all the testing. We did all the sampling, and we came back and came to the conclusion that they weren't doing that. One of another reasons why I was pretty confident that Iraq didn't have a covert missile force, because to have a covert missile force, if it's based upon a liquid fuel missile, you need liquid fuel. And if you're not producing it yourself, you have to be acquiring it, and you weren't acquiring it anywhere. That's a long way of saying that long way of saying what? I got into Iraq. Fuel. Gulf Coast. We are gasoline refining from American gasoline production is geared towards Venezuelan crude, specific brand of Venezuelan crude. Now, when we sanctioned Venezuelan crude, we then we started buying a lot of oil from Russia, because in the Urals, there's a type of crude that comes out of the ground there that's very similar from a chemical point of view to what came out of Venezuela, so that by bringing that in, we didn't have to spend the billions of dollars to redo the refineries. We could just bring in this Russian crude and keep the refineries up and produce the gasoline. The irony is, even after we started sanctioning Russia, we still use that Russian crude. We don't like to talk about it, but how do we get it? Well, we send it to India, and then the Indians load it on the ships, and we buy it from the Indians, and we put it in here, and it's Russian crude. But we have to buy it because
Scott, we even know about this in Poland, FYI.
Yeah. And so now we wanted to get the Venezuelans up, because remember, we were panicked. People are like, well, why did suddenly America want to lift the sanctions against the Venezuelans? Because we're trying to shut down the procurement of Russian crude. So we needed the Venezuelan crude to come back up and running. So we started kissing up the Venezuelans. But then we found out about the Indians and how we could get it from the Indians. So notice what we did with the Venezuelans. We don't need you anymore. We're going to sanction you again. We can do it all. The stupidity of that. But so we are somewhat vulnerable to even though America says we're self-sufficient in energy, actually we could be in for a major domestic crisis, because we would have to redo all of our refineries to be able to start using, to break down the Canadian crude or West Texas crude into gasoline. All these other things get used to all the other products that we use. I mean, gasoline is just one little thing. We use oil in everything, plastics, the whole works. And all that other crude gets broken down in refineries that are designed to produce that product. But the gasoline that goes in your car comes out of refineries that are geared to Venezuelan crude or Russian crude, not American crude. Now, I don't know, what's going on. I don't know if we've, to be honest, I can't tell you that if in the last 6 months we haven't gone in and taken one of those refineries down. I don't think we have, because this is the danger of those big hurricanes that come in. They start attacking the refineries in Louisiana and Texas. These refineries go down. We don't have backups. And the other thing is we've sold them all to the Saudis or something. So it's all confusing how it works. But America will take care of America, but we're not going to take care of Europe. We don't care about you. I just don't know how many times I have to say it. We're using you. We use Europe. We don't care about you. If we cared about the French, why do we sell the French gas at prices that break their economy? If we cared about the Germans, why would we blow up the Nord Stream pipeline and then replace it with gas that they can't afford? We don't care about Poland. We don't care about the Balts. We don't care about anybody in Europe. We only care about America. That's it. We're number one, baby, and we're using all of you to keep ourselves propped up in the number one spot. So anybody who thinks that if there's a major energy crisis around the world, that America is going to be the cavalry riding to your rescue, it isn't going to happen.
But Scott, I don't think they even care about America.
How could you? I just told you we have nuclear war planners that say we're willing to write off, 60, 70% of the nation. You're willing to write off 60 to 70% of America so that you can win a nuclear war. They don't care about America. They don't care about anything. They care about themselves. They care about some, theoretical post-conflict world where nothing they think is going to happen because they're all going to be dead anyways. But yeah, they don't.
I want to ask you before we end this, don't you think this is so ridiculous? Those people or creatures, whatever they are, they believe that if they go to their bunkers somewhere, whatever level underneath the earth, they will be fine. Is it really like going to protect anyone?
They, first of all, they understand that the guy doing this is a punk ass kid who doesn't know anything. Like I said, he grew up being a colonial oppressor. That's what if you worked in the Coalition Provisional Authority, you were a colonial oppressor. You came as a colonial government over Iraq. So you're used to being large and in charge. You're used to having your little empire and making things happen. Then you left that and you got plugged into government where you were pretending that you're part of it. So these are people that sit in Washington, D.C. in an air-conditioned office. They're all a little chubby. I can't make too much fun of them, but because we all get chubby the older we get. But they sit there and they have this artificial environment. They hang out in clubs full of other people like themselves who talk. They host these meetings, these symposiums where people come in and they talk and they just make stuff up. They lie to each other. They put forward theories and all this stuff, and they just bounce it off each other in their own little closed circle. And they're not anywhere near what reality is. And so they write up papers, well, we can build certain things. We can make certain things happen. Some of the stuff they keep talking about isn't it? We used to have underground bunkers all over the place near Washington, D.C., where we could rush people off. But when the Cold War ended, we sort of put them on mothballs. And so now a number of them have been converted. I know I used to do some, firefighter training at one of these places in West Virginia, where we practice rail car rescue and all that stuff, because they had a rail line that came into a tunnel. And so rather than going to an actual subway or something like that, we had this tunnel that was going into a mountain that's been closed off because, we don't need that place anymore. And we practice rail rescue on that. But, now they're saying, well, we'll just reopen West Virginia. Where's the money? Have you budgeted the money? Do you have a team reopening it? Have they actually gone and tested? Because during the Cold War, these facilities were up and running. We had teams there full time. It was very expensive, but they were fully stocked. These guys are looking on paper, talking about things that they probably haven't even done. And so, again, if we go to war, I just pray that they haven't. So they get in their bus and they're going to their thing and they're going, oh, we won the golden lottery ticket. We're going in the bunker. And they get to the bunker and they open it up and there's no water and there's no food, and there's no diesel, the generators haven't been tested, and they get in there, lock the door, and the world goes to hell, and their radioactive meters start going off. They go, how come we're getting radiation? Well, you didn't budget the money for the filters, and so it's coming in, and we're sucking the air in. Oh, you can't have that. We need water. Well, we didn't do the water. We're hungry. We need food. There's no food. And so they're going to die of starvation and of thirst and of disease. And I just hope that somehow my spirit will be hovering over them, laughing at them the whole time, saying, you did this to yourselves, and I'm glad you're suffering. I'm not normally that vindictive, but when you're talking about the stupid people who are planning the end of the world, I become sort of a mean-spirited person, because they're talking about killing everything I love, everything I care for, and I'm not in the tolerance game anymore when it comes to that.
Scott, thank you so much for joining me today. I still somehow, in spite of the seriousness of the current moment we are living in, I still somehow believe that we will save humanity, and none of this will happen.
I hope you're right. I mean, I want to be right. Anya, you know that I'm working for that goal. I just get a little fed up every once in a while, because I just take a look at the stupidity that's taking place in the circles that make these decisions, and I don't see rational thinkers anymore. You and I are rational thinkers. We talk to a lot of rational thinkers, and Russia is populated with rational thinkers. I'd like to believe China is populated with rational thinkers too, but I can tell you that the United States is not populated with rational thinkers. And all you have to do is take a look at the statements coming out of European leadership. I mean, my God, Emmanuel Macron and Olaf Scholz side by side talking about how they're giving Ukraine permission to use their weapons. Emmanuel Macron, Francois Hollande was the French president when Vladimir Putin agreed to move into the Minsk process. Emmanuel Macron now admits it was a farce. He lied from day one. Scholz, Angela Merkel was the chancellor that she admits they lied from day one. France and Germany started this war, and now they somehow are saying, well, because we're losing, we take umbrage at the Russian victory, so we're going to give Ukraine permission to use our weapons to attack Russia. Do they understand that they have no moral ground to stand on? None whatsoever. They started this war. France and Germany started this war by lying about their desire for peace. And now they're doing everything they can to push this war over into the next phase, which will be terminal for everybody, because the next phase is nuclear war. Anyways, I'm hoping that you're right, and we have to be positive. We have our project. We can't let nuclear war get rid of our project.
Yeah. No, but someone mentioned here Poland. I didn't even ask this question because Scott addressed it too. So of course, everyone knows that Poland on the same shenanigans. Okay, we all know because we are the first one to. Not we, politicians who will actually escape the country. I'm really feeling like I'm living in Twilight Zone. It's like 1939, kind of almost not the same, but very similar in a way, that's how I'm feeling here. But Scott is going to Russia, guys. Make sure to go on scottritter.com. The link is already down below this video, because I think we will be notified when Scott is in Russia if there is anything taking place of importance, and our project will be announced very soon. Like I said, those of you who are interested, follow Scott. All the links, 3 links are down below this video, including X, so previously known as Twitter, and scottritter.com. I believe Substack no longer, as that one is no longer accurate, but try, click on it, and you have all my platforms. Locals is the one where I will be announcing. And with all of this being said, Scott, first and foremost, I thank you for today. I wish you, what I wish you, safe trip. And I wish you to find Russia, especially Moscow for me, is a place that when I get there, I always have this moment of adjusting my energy a bit. So I get a little bit off, depressed. Then I come up again and I feel it's a very healing place. So I hope you get some good energy to recharge and you get some rest. and things might look brighter, hopefully, when we connect next time.
Well, I look forward to it too. I come back from Russia always refreshed because it gives me hope that at least one half of the equation that we're dealing with wants peace. So I come back from Russia saying, okay, I'm reassured they want peace. And now it helps me redouble my efforts to fight for peace here in the United States. Maybe I've just been in America too long without that Russian recharge. So we'll see.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for sharing the conversation, hitting this like, and leaving the comments down below. And stay safe, everyone. Until next time.